This is the Work Smart workshop series for the library, and this is literature reviews. So we are going to be discussing literature reviews today. I'm April Lafferty. I am the hospitality librarian at the Hubert Library up at BBC, and I will let my co-host introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Ilana Karshmer. I'm the Chair of Information and Research Services over at GL, but my specialty area would be literature, so more towards the humanities side. But that doesn't mean that we can't give you some tips that will be very helpful in your area as well. So, and Holly is our colleague, so she's gonna kind of be monitoring, so she can also chime in if she has any suggestions.
Okay. So today during this workshop, the plan is I'm going to be going over some of the mechanics of a literature review, and I'm going to give you some basic search strategies that you can use while doing that. And then Alana is going to go and use those search strategies and do a live search. So I'll go ahead and jump into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. I think it's this one. Share. All right, so you should be able to see what is literature review in front of you?
Okay.
See that? Okay, great. So do you have any idea what a literature review is or what it should look like or anything like that?
I think going through a lot of research materials that are already published and having a review on all of those literature together.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's sort of in the name, right? So literature review is basically just a review of works to help you expand your knowledge of a particular topic. And it can be standalone or part of a larger work. Sometimes a professor assigns just a literature review, but a lot of times it is meant to be at the beginning of a book chapter, perhaps at the beginning of a book or beginning of an essay. So it kind of depends on how big it is or how big your research project is, how big your literature review is going to be. One thing that I want to point out is that research really is it's an art. It takes a lot of finesse. There's a process to it. I'm sorry, there is not really a real process. This is there's no real formula to it, is what I'm trying to say in my roundabout way. So there's no real formula to it. It does take a bit of understanding of how different resources work, but there's no one way to get to the answer of doing the literature review. But hopefully some of the things that we're going to show you in this workshop will help you a little bit more with doing your research. So what does it look like? It's written in an essay, introduction, body, conclusion, 1 to 2 pages, can be an entire chapter. These are the steps of a literature review. You first want to choose a topic, and that can be done many different ways. Perhaps look at what you're interested in, something related to your class. Perhaps look online to see if there's something online that would be interesting to you. You can always talk to a subject librarian at the library to help you get started. The library also on our website has this button, the Research How button, and on there is a step-by-step process of the research process, including tips and tricks on how to pick a topic. So if you ever get stuck with doing that, that is a good jumping off point for doing a research, any type of research project, including a literature review. The next step in doing a literature review is to find relevant works on your topic. So this is the part that we're going to be focusing on most in this presentation, and probably what you will be focusing more on when you are doing your literature review yourself. So that's the next step. The next one after that is once you have found the literature that you're looking at, you want to read through them and start to identify things like common patterns. Are there gaps in the literature? What do the different authors say? Do they agree on what the answer should be? Do they disagree? Why do they disagree? All those things are things that you should be keeping in mind when you are doing when you are reading through it. After that, you create an outline and then start writing. So now I'm going to talk about that second part, the finding relevant works, and this is the part where the library really ties into helping you do your literature review. So if you are, if you have a topic, what you want to do is you're going to want to take the topic and you're going to want to go to the resources, a library database, maybe from the library website, perhaps even a website that's online, and you want to enter that so you can find relevant research to it. But how do you do that? I think most people at this point know that you can't just put an entire sentence into a a search box in a database or even online. You don't always get the best results. So the best way to find more literature written about your topic that you have is to start breaking it down into manageable bits. So here we have it broken down into main keywords or themes. You see we have, for this topic that we have on the screen, we have 4 concepts that are related to it. And each concept we have come up with a keyword or a main theme that is related to it. So we have these now. So what you could do now is you could take those 4 keywords and you could go and enter them, but you probably wouldn't get a lot of results. What you want to do now is break these down even further into keywords. So this is where it takes a little bit of brainstorming. Go to the next screen. So now we have keywords that are related to each concept, and the way that you come up with keywords are you start brainstorming all of the related words or synonyms to each concept and just write them down. So this is just the brainstorming process. So we're trying to write down as many as we possibly can. So for the first one, I've come up with 3 keywords. There could be more, there could be less. So it just sort of depends on what you need. And we have them for each one. So those are the keywords that we have. So now that we have the keywords, do you have any ideas of maybe what we should do with the keywords, or? Well, I'll just go into so once you have the keywords, you're going to want to go and enter them into the databases, but you don't want to just enter them like this. The best way to do it is to use connecting words between the keywords in order to expand or contract your search. The way we do that is by using Boolean operators. Those are the words and, or, and not, and those are used in between the words. And depending on which one you use, it will expand your search or narrow your search a little bit. So and is the one that narrows it. And is used in between 2 separate concepts. So if we wanted to search for articles that had to do with concept 1, but also concept 2, we would put these keywords in and then put an and then these keywords. So these 2 sets of keywords would be connected by an and. The second Boolean operator is or. Or helps to expand the search. So if we go back, or is used between 2 words that are very similar or synonyms. So for concept 1, these 3 words are similar to each other in that they all equate to this first concept. So we would use the word or in between each one of these, and any search would search for any one of these words. It wouldn't just search for this, but it would also have to search for this set of keywords as well. So we want to search for all 3, or each one. So we would use or in between similar words and in between 2 unrelated concepts. The final one is the word not. Not is used to exclude words that may not be relevant. In this example, the word light means we're talking about illumination, and we're not talking about weight or gravity, like something being light or heavy. So perhaps if we were doing a search and we used the keyword light, maybe we'd want to exclude the word weight if we were getting articles that had to do with gravity or weight instead of the word light, meaning illumination. So that would narrow out a word that it keeps coming up that is giving us irrelevant results. The word not is not used all that frequently, just because sometimes it can it can take out too much. So we don't want to start weeding out things that are not as, we don't want to start taking things out that we could potentially use in an article, or we could use in our research. Does that make sense? Sorry, I was distracted. Ilana, are you able to see when the people come in?
Yes, I'm letting people in, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so those are the three Boolean operators. And is to narrow, or is to expand, and not is used to exclude words. There are other ways of narrowing our search, and that is using truncation and exact phrasing. These two can help you to get better results from what you're looking for. So truncation is when you take the root of a word and search for it. It helps you to search for all the variations of the words. So if you'll notice under the first concept, we have the keywords psychologically and psychology. But they both share the same root. So what you can do is you can put an asterisk after the G, which I've done down here, and it will search for all variations of that word. So you can search for these two and any other variation of the word here. So that helps to, that saves you from having to type in the word, every variation of the word when you're doing your search. Exact phrasing is used when you want to search for a phrase using two or more words. So I have the examples here, doctor's office. If you wanted to search for those two words together, if you put quotation marks around it, it will narrow out anything that is not that exact phrase. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So far, so good?
Can you
Okay.
explain truncation one more time?
Yes, so truncation is used when you have multiple variations of a word that could still be relevant to your results. So you'll notice here under concept 1, I have these psychology and psychologically. And then in, let's see, in concept 2, we have hospital, but hospital could be hospital, hospitals, hospitalization. There's a lot of different variations of the word hospital also. So if you take the root hospital and you put an asterisk at the end of that, that would search for all the variations of that word.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It basically saves you from having to type in psychologically or psychology or any other variation of the word.
Psychological,
Psychological.
psychologist, anything else that has that root psycholog and then
Yes.
something on the end.
And yeah, so and then exact phrasing. Exact phrasing is also very useful when you're trying to search for two words together, or if you know somebody said something or something like that, and you can put the quotation marks around it, and it will only search for that phrase. That's a really useful way of doing a search.
Yeah, because
Any other
what
questions?
would happen otherwise is that you would get results that have doctors,
Mhm.
office. They don't necessarily have to be right together, but with doctor's office quotation marks, it means they're going to be right next to each other, same phrase. And so you're not having to search for just the ones that have what you're actually referring to. It's just kind of useful.
Right, yes. Okay, so that's truncation and exact phrasing. So now I'm just going to show you really quick what it would look like if you were doing a search in a database or in one of our library resources. This is how you would enter it into the search boxes. Each box represents a different concept, and notice how each box is separated by and. So we have behavior or psychology and then connected by and. So when you run the search, it's going to search for all 4 of these concepts, and it will also search for the keywords within it. So we have behavior or psychology with the truncation at the end. So that's the first concept. And then we've got the next one all separated by or, and then so on and so forth. So this should give you, hopefully, the search results that you're looking for if you do that search. And when Alana does her live search, she'll be able to show you in real time what this really looks like. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So some search tips for you that are useful in doing your searches is first, you want to keep track of the search strings that you're using for each database or resources that you're using to avoid duplication. What I like to do is have a Word document open and have, just the name of the database or resource that I searched, the date that I searched it, and then the exact search that I did. So I would copy and paste behavior or psychology and this line, and each line I would type that into my Word document so that I have it, so that the next resource that I go to, I know exactly what it was that I searched for before. That way you're not duplicating searches, you know what you've already done. And in some places it's useful because I think that they need you to show what search you did. So that is one search tip. Another search tip is to make a list of recurring authors, contributors, and citations. This is useful because it helps you to find seminal works. It helps you to find out, you know, what's, you know, if there's one author who's written, you know, like the prime researcher for this particular topic, it's good to see if there's anything else written by them. So you can take that author's name and do a search for them. Contributors, you know, see if there's any other citations that keep popping up. It's just good to know what keeps coming up in all of the databases. Use the bibliographies of the articles, the literature that you have already found. Look through the bibliographies, don't ignore those. The bibliographies give you clues to what the researcher in that piece of literature used for their own research. So you can go back and read what they use, and that usually will tie into the work that you're researching. And then finally, how do you know that you're finished with doing research? And this is kind of a moving target. It kind of just depends on what you're trying to find. But a good way to tell if you're finished with doing the literature review is when every time you do that same search in all the different databases or all the different resources, you keep getting duplicates and you're not finding anything new. That's when it's time to stop and start writing. All right. So those are my search tips. And literature reviews tend to require quite a few citations. So it is really useful to use a citation manager. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them or not, but they can be really useful to help you to keep track of your citations, avoid duplicates, create bibliographies, and share files with, like if you're doing a group project, you can help to share files with them. Examples of citation managers are RefWorks, EndNote, Zotero. Those are the three that are supported here at FIU Libraries. In fact, we have workshops on each one of those citation managers, but there are many that are out there. Most of them are free, some of them are paid, but they're really useful to use. We have this website, which I will take you to, that tells you a little bit more on the ones that we support here at the library. Each tab shows it. The one that I tend to use the most is Zotero. That's the one that I just, for my own personal research, that I like to use. So I just wanted to show you really quick how it looks and just some of the benefits of it. But each one of these citation managers does kind of the same thing in different ways, but they do sort of the same thing. So let me just show you what you can do with the citation manager. I'm going to give you an example of Zotero. So this is my own Zotero page that I use. And on here, you can see if I wanted to, I could create a citation. I could also, if I was in a database, I could export a citation from a database directly into Zotero, and it would show up on this list. Once you have an article that or a resource that you're interested in, if you click on it, you can come over here and you can edit any one of these pages or any one of these boxes. You can add notes to it. You can add tags. You can also, if you want to, you can create files. So if you are doing multiple research projects at a time, you can create a file and quickly and easily save these to the different files. You can also, well, you can export, but you can also create group libraries. As I said before, if you're working on a group project, you can create a library that you could share with your group mates, and they can all log in and see what you've already found. Another thing, which I think is the biggest benefit to using a citation manager, is it creates in-text and bibliography, in-text citations and also bibliographies for you. And it quickly changes between citation styles. This just created an in-text citation for me for that article that I had selected, and it's in the APA 7th edition. But if I wanted to, I could change it to any one of these or any one of 10,400 other styles. I had no idea there were that many available. It's insane how many there are. So you can switch between any citation style that you want. And let me just show you, you can create a bibliography, which is also kind of cool. If you just go there, you click on the bibliography link. This is doing it in the APA citation style, but you can change it to any one of these as well. And then you just copy and paste that to your clipboard and save it later. That's just a brief overview of it. We have a whole workshop that really goes into this in depth and shows you how you can tie it into when you're using Word, you can automatically use it with Word and Google Docs and that sort of thing. But this is just to give you an idea that these are really great for using, especially when you're doing literature reviews. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
No.
Okay.
It's coming in the chat. I just want to check it.
Oh, yes.
Yes, this is being recorded in answer to the question, so you will be able to access it later. So no
Yes.
worries there. That was a question. She thinks so. No problem. All right. I think we're up to date on the chat.
Okay. All right. So that's the end of, here, let me stop sharing. So that's the end of my section. I'm going to turn it over to Alana, and Alana is going to do a live demonstration of our databases to show what we have to offer.
Let me share my screen so I can show you guys a live demonstration. All right. Hopefully you should be seeing the library search page. This is just our regular website. If you go to library.fiu.edu, this is what you're going to see. And we are going to start by just doing a search using some of the terms that April just showed you. And we are going to, the first thing you're going to see when you come to the library website is this box that says Discovery is going to be highlighted. That's just the default setting anytime you go to the library. So you'll see this box. This will be highlighted, and you'll see these options over here, and you can hover over any of them, but we're just going to leave it as is. And in this box, we are going to enter a search term. So we're going to start by entering a couple of these searches. So if we just did this first one, behavior, or I had this entered earlier, so behavior or psychology without anything on the end, just to show you what happens. I'm going to run the search, and you're going to see what happens. So this is just the two. This is an or, so I'm getting whatever's available. I'm kind of expanding my search to see what's out there. Now, as you can see, just by doing behavior or psychology, which means in psychology, psychologist, psychology, like whatever, anything that has that first, I mean, you can think of a lot of terms, but they're all going to come up here. And as you can see, we got over 4 million results, which tells you there's a lot here if you combine these two terms, or you say either one. So from here, I'm going to say, okay, this is probably not the best search. I want to be a little bit more specific because obviously I don't want to have to go through almost 5 million results. That's a lot. So from here, I have the option. I can go in here and say, well, what I really want to find out is I kind of want to specify a little more. I want to do those and searches. So I can come on here and I can just enter and I can start entering hospital and then my little truncation, or clinic, and then I can run my search again, see what happens. Now I'm down to just over 1 million. So I got rid of a bunch of results just because I'm more specific. So that's one way to start kind of narrowing things down, by adding those and terms. So, okay, so I still have a lot here. So I could keep doing that. I could keep entering more and more things by using the and the or combinations to get what I want. That's one option. But if you just take a look at the results in the middle of the screen, you will see that I have a bunch of things here. First of all, it tells you right at the top, it kind of gives you, in most cases, it might give you a little picture or just a little icon, but it's going to tell you what the item is. In this case, it says article. All right, so you know right off the bat, we're dealing with article, book, article, journal, and so forth. Now, the nice thing is when you see the article option here, it will generally tell you right away whether it's peer reviewed, which is probably what you want to know, especially if you're doing research for something like a master's thesis or a dissertation. So you'll know right here, you see this little purple icon, it says peer reviewed. So that means obviously you're getting a higher level of scholarship, which is something that you want. This page will also tell you more about where it's coming from. So you'll see the author's names right here. Here is the source, Child Care, Health and Development. This is the name of the journal that it was in. You'll see the date of publication, volume, issue, page number, and so forth. So you have a better sense of where it's coming from. So you have a lot of information just in this middle sort of panel in the screen, which is helpful. But obviously, none of us have time to go through even 1 million results. That's still quite a lot. So what you can do is if you go over to the left side of the page, you're going to see tweak your results. And this is really going to help you figure out where you can find kind of exactly what it is you're looking for. So in this case, what I really want is, I can say here, resource type. If I just want articles, I can click here. If I just, and I can click as many of these as I want. So if I say, well, I really want articles, I really want book chapters, and to start with, that's kind of really all I'm in, maybe a couple books. Let's see, I want these things to start with. Okay, so I said I want those things, and I'm going to apply filters. So from that 1 million, I just got rid of a few things. So most of them were already books, book chapters, and articles, mostly articles in this case. But I'm down a little more, so we're going down. So now I have a few other options here. One thing I can do is, okay, well, I really want the ones that are just peer reviewed. So I can come here, click on peer review, apply filters. Now I'm down even further. So just now I'm under 1 million. So it's kind of a slow process, which is exactly what April said. There's no hard and fast rule of how to do this. It's really what works best for you. And depending on the topic that you enter, you might find right away that there's very little on your topic. Or if it's something like this, which we've just indicated, kind of needs a little bit more tweaking, needs a little bit more sort of thinking through in order to really narrow down, maybe you do need to go back and say, okay, well, in this case, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to enter another term. I'm going to say doctor or physician, just to kind of see what happens here. Run my search again and see if I get fewer results. Well, I did. In this case, I'm down to just over 100,000. So that went down quite a lot. And again, I can go back over here and say, well, I want the peer-reviewed journals. Let's see what happens now. Now I'm down to just over 100,000. So I've gotten rid of several thousand. So as I keep doing this, I can really sort of play around with what I have. So I can see here, these are all peer-reviewed articles, and I can just kind of scroll down to show you they all have this little purple icon. And I might just want to take a quick glance through them and see if I'm finding something. Or I might say, you know what? Okay, so now I found a whole bunch of articles. I've got just over 100,000, which seems like a lot, but remember the first search we did was like over 4 million. So 100,000 versus 4 million is quite a change. So from here, maybe what I really say is I want things that are more recent. I don't know if I want anything from the 1800s. That might be a little old. So maybe I say I'm really only interested in things from, let's go ahead and say like 2019 through 2025. And by 2025, the reason they put that is because these are things that are scheduled to be published. We're not in 2025 yet. There may be preprints available, or they may be coming up, fairly soon, because as we all know, journals don't always publish every month. So maybe their journal cycle publication, the next one is coming out later this year, or maybe they've already they've already finished publishing for the year and it's coming up in January. So I would just leave it as is. Or if you want to be sure that it's available now, you could always just change this to 2024 and refine. All right, so now we're down to 35,000 results. So that's much better. So we've gotten rid of quite a few. So now I can kind of look through and just kind of glance at some of the topics here, the names of the articles, factors associated with doctor-patient relationship. This one happens to be in China. Okay, this one says more Children's Hospital. Okay, South Korea, China. So I'm seeing a lot of China. I'm seeing a lot of things. Maybe I find that I don't want things from out of the country, depending on my topic. So I might at this point go back and put a not in there if it's useful to me. Or I might go in here and say, okay, what I really want is to add a term in quotation marks. So I get a specific term and add that in. So I might have to play around a little bit more with my search terms. Or maybe I actually find something that looks really interesting here and I go ahead and say, well, you know what? I want to see this article right here. So I have a couple of options. If I click on this, It's going to take me to more information about this article, including everybody that gives me access to it. And you can see it's available through a whole bunch of different databases. But if I scroll further down, I'm going to not only see a whole bunch of information, but this really important part right here, which is called an abstract or a summary of the article. This abstract can be really useful because I can kind of see, okay, well, they are talking about research done in Israel in the neonatal intensive care, in training simulations. Okay, well, this could be really useful to my research, so maybe I want to go ahead and get it. So if I want to actually read the entire article from this point, I can go ahead and click here where it says download PDF, and I can get the full text of the article because this is available in full text. So that's kind of cool. Or maybe I want to see other things that were in this same journal, in which case I can click on view issue contents and see what else was published at the same time. Maybe there's some other things in this journal that would be useful if this particular article is useful. So that's always another way that you can kind of see what's available without having to just flip through a journal that we don't necessarily have in print. So you should take advantage of these things. Or maybe you say, this looks great, I'm going to download the PDF, save it to my computer and read it later. Or maybe you just want to get the permalinks, save that permalink so you could read it later and just have a list of all the journals you want to read, all the articles you want to take a look at later on. You also see right here, here's your print button. You can email it to yourself. If you click on citation, it will give you the citation in several different styles. In this case, we have MLA, APA, Chicago, and Harvard. And you can cut and paste this directly into a works cited page if you would like. Or you can export this, which would be necessary if you wanted to use a citation manager like Zotero, or you can put it directly into EndNote or RefWorks by using these buttons here. So there's a lot of options at the top. So you can take a look at that as you do your own research. So all you need to do to get to the text of this at this point is click where it says download PDF. It will kind of take a minute. In some cases, if you have not logged in, it will ask you to log in. Anytime it asks you for a login, it's going to be your FIU username and your password. So that would be the first part of your username before the @ and then whatever your username is for email or for Canvas. And here's my article. And I can read, this one is just a very short, this is in a sort of a short article form, but it might be very interesting. And at that point you can decide, well, it's a very short read, maybe it's something I want, maybe it's something I don't want. So there it is for you. So if you don't like it, all you have to do is exit out and it'll take you right back to your list of resources. So any questions about this? This is what we call the discovery tool. It's very useful for starting a search. Now, let's say that you're working on your master's, you're working on your PhD, and you really want to do a deep dive into your topic because you already have identified the topic you need to research, and you want to just find the best resources possible that are specific to your area. Well, in that case, I'm going to suggest that you not use this search option and that you start somewhere else. So I'm just going to show you back from this page, which is the library homepage, library.fiu.edu. If you go to Research Start, you're going to see several options that would be useful. First of all, this frequently used tools is just a good place to start. Again, you're going to see our step-by-step guides. In case you forget anything, you can always go back and take a look. We're going to talk about subject resources in just a minute, but we also have some research support options in case you want to take a look. But if you go ahead and click on the subject resource option, you will see that we have a list of different subject areas that you might be studying, that you might be majoring in, that you might be doing your research in, and they're all listed alphabetically. So you can see, you said you're in the health sciences and biomedical sciences, is that correct?
Yeah.
So you can see here, we don't have biomedical sciences, but we do have biological science and we have health sciences. So we have some that sort of overlap. So you could kind of decide which area would be best for you. So depending on which one you want to take a look at, you could click on either one. If you click on this area, it's going to take you automatically to a list of guides. These are LibGuides that we have developed for different courses, for different subject areas within the health sciences. But also, if you click on the next option, databases, it's going to take you to a list of all of the databases that are specifically geared for health sciences or whatever area you choose from the list. So this is useful if you are really just wanting to find the best databases in health sciences. So while the one that we just looked at was sort of general, we're going to search everywhere kind of a little bit all at once, this is just sort of by database. So if I said, well, I know the name of the database I want to search in, I really want to look at this one, health sciences and nursing databases, or I really want to look at health and wellness or Medline or any of these are all very specific to the fields related to health sciences. So from here, I could click on the name of the database that I want to search, do the same kind of search within one that's specific to my area, and it's going to give me sort of more targeted results based on my discipline. So these are going to be sort of, it's a much deeper dive into specific areas than what we did previously. So from here, you can select whichever one you want. Again, you may have to log in depending on if you have or have not, but you'll see as you scroll down the list after the best bets, which are kind of more general, you'll see that we have a lot more that are very specific. Like if you're interested in neurology, if you're interested in medicine, pediatrics, surgery, so forth, if you're interested in aging. So you'll have to just kind of take a look and see what we have and which one kind of matches your needs the best. But this is a really good place to start once you have a better sense of your topic. And if you know, I really need to find articles that are related to my topic and it's a very specific area of research, and I really just want to see what people who are considered experts in that field and that field alone are talking about when they're doing research for this particular area. So that's kind of where I would suggest that you go. So it will also show you the name of the person who is your liaison. In this case, you'll see that it's Joanna. She's our health sciences librarian. And from here, you can get her contact information, and you can also email her directly, which can be very useful because I'm not a health sciences librarian, and biomedical science is outside of my area as well. I mean, I know both April and I would be happy to help, but you know, if you need something really kind of deep in there, we probably would refer you to Joanna. So this is a good place to get her information, and then she can reach out to you and you can set up a time to talk more specifically about what resources might be best for you. So that's kind of a way to get in touch with the person who is considered an expert in your field. So this is a good place to go to find that kind of information. So beyond that, a quick couple of things I wanted to show you. If you go back to the library homepage, which is right here, hopefully you can see this. If you go back to Research Start, which is kind of where we just were, you'll find again that, you know, we have these step-by-step guides that are very useful. And if you click here, you had the research process, which we just talked about a little bit, and this Research How InfoLit Toolkit. If you click on this, you'll see that we not only have more resources on navigating the library, the research journey, and subjects and resources, but there is information under the research journey. You can find out a lot more about how to deal with information, how to think about it, because one of the things that's going to come up quite often is when you find information, you may find that people who are actively doing research in the field might not agree with each other. You might find different perspectives. You might find that things that you thought might support what you are trying to say maybe don't. Maybe you're coming at it from a new perspective. That doesn't mean you're wrong, and it doesn't mean the other person's wrong. It just means you're thinking about it from a different, perspective. You're coming at it from a new, in a new way. You have different data that you're looking at. You have a different kind of way of thinking. You're building on knowledge that was created before, and now you're coming up with something new. And that's kind of the important part about research, is that we use information that was created, data that was created by other researchers to come up with new knowledge. And that's all part of the iterative process of research. So don't feel bad if people aren't agreeing with you right out of the cage. You find like, oh, maybe they didn't seem to agree with what I think is important, or maybe they don't support my data right away. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means when you write, when you start doing your own work, when you get past this first part of doing the lit review, you might have to say, other researchers in the field have suggested A, but I think it's important that we look at B. And then you're going to have to explain why. And that's kind of part of the whole process of creating new knowledge. So it's not, doesn't mean you're wrong, doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means that you have to kind of create that information gap and fill it in yourself, and be the one who says, this is why what I have to say is important, and this is why my voice should be heard. And that's what you're doing as someone who's entering sort of the whole scholarly conversation. So, and the last thing that I want to show you, if you go back to our library website, that's important. I want to show you how to get here. And you just say, I can't remember anything that they talked about, but I know I want to talk to someone who's an expert in the field of health sciences, biology, something like that, who can help me find the resources in my field. If you go back to the library website and you go to find, and you scroll down to the bottom, you can find our list of subject, librarians, and resources arranged by area, discipline, and by name. So once you scroll down, you can see all of the areas and who you should talk to. And you'll see that you can click on a profile. It will take you to information about how to contact that person. And you can set up an appointment and discuss any of these in more detail. So with that, I will say, are there any questions? Because that's a lot of information that just got thrown out at you. Questions?
No, it was pretty clear. Thank you.
It's not hard. It's just one of those things that you just have to kind of sit down and start doing. But yeah, I think, that along with all of the tips that April gave you will really make the whole process of doing a lit review much, much easier, because it takes a lot of the stress off when this is what I have to do here. This is how I find the articles that I can then turn into the actual lit review. So that's kind of the biggest part, is finding the articles that you then sort of put into your mind, and then it kind of comes out after all the thinking into your lit review. But you have to have that information to put in first. So, anyone, questions? Anything that you're struggling with that we can help with?
And I just added links to, we do have a guide on our website for literature reviews. So I added the link to that, and also a guide for citation managers if you'd like to go and find out more information about those. And also, I'm going to share a link to upcoming WorkSmart library workshops that we have. Those, because we will be talking about citation managers. We have some on systematic reviews. There's a bunch more that are coming up. So this is WorkSmart. That's those. All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I think that we can go ahead and end the workshop. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to us. If feel free to use any of our guides, and also please, how do we look for a number of citations? You mean in the databases?
Okay.
Okay.
Are you talking about like a citation index? Yes. Some of that's going to be available through Web of Science. So you'd have to go into Web of Science and look it up there. It's not available in every single database.
You mean like the impact factor? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about? Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, you could go into, I can share my screen. Let's see. Let's see. All right, so we have Web of Science. Let's see, which one is it? It would just be the core collection, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now that I've come in here, let's see, the cited references. I don't come into Web of Science that often, so let me see here. I don't remember. Do you remember the best way to find it, Alana?
I believe if you look up the name of the article, you should be able to find information about it. But my question is, what, I know you said you're in the library and you can't turn on your mic, which is unfortunate. When you're doing, are you, if you can't answer this, then this might be something that you want to schedule a time to talk to your liaison about. When it comes to doing lit reviews, you probably aren't going to be super concerned about finding the impact factor for an article because it's not really going to make much of a difference. The only time you would really be super concerned about that in some cases, and I'm going to say in some cases very strongly here, because I think, you know, we are as a whole getting away from being super concerned about impact factors, because the truth of the matter is there has been quite a bit of research done that suggests that impact factors are grossly inflated for a number of areas, so they're not really reflecting how good a publication really is. So I just would suggest that if you're concerned about, if you're thinking about impact factors, you might be thinking about it for your own publications, but I would suggest that you look at something more than just the regular impact factor in Web of Science. You might want to look at the alt metrics factor as well. You might also want to look at journals that are publishing a lot of articles in your field that are well known within your field, things like that, because it's not necessarily going to tell the whole story of whether it's a good journal, is all I'm sort of trying to say. And people have sort of relied on impact factors for a really long time, and it's not necessarily the best indication of a very high quality publication. That's what I'm just trying to say. So I see you understand that. I just don't want to hammer that home too hard, but I want to make sure you understand it. But if you're doing, and if you're searching for articles, I would not be super concerned about the impact factor when you're doing your lit review. I would just make sure that your articles are coming from peer-reviewed sources, is what I would say. April, what do you think that's pretty fair?
Yeah, I would say that, and then also maybe look to see not necessarily how much. I mean, you could. It doesn't hurt to see how much something has been cited,
Sure.
because that does tell you whether or not it's been, you know, if it's a seminal work or that sort of thing. So you can look and see if it is being cited in the literature that you're reading. You can look at the bibliographies. You can look through that and see if it's being cited by others.
Can you tell us just briefly what area you're from? Because I know Asian studies, okay. Because some areas are going to be very well represented with impact factors, but to be honest, the ones that are highly represented in Web of Science, unfortunately, are science and health science related. So other than that, you probably will not find a lot of impact factors if that's not your area, unfortunately. And that's unfortunate for the rest of us who are not doing research in those fields, because there's no other database that is really working on developing a repository of sort of impact factors the same way that Web of Science has done, that refers back to publications that are not in the sciences or STEM. So it's just a fact of the matter. If I'm doing research for my area, which is literature, I'm not going to be able to find the impact factors very well for most of those journals, because it's just not something most people are super concerned about. So you may or may not find that you can even get the impact factors for some of those articles or journals. But if you're interested, I do have, I can also provide a, what do you call it, a presentation that I did last year that has a lot of information on impact factors, is part of a whole presentation that was done on avoiding predatory publishing and making sure that you use good practices when it comes to selecting, you know, publishing in ethics in publishing in general. I can make that available. We can make that available online as well if you're interested in seeing it, because it does have a lot of information that could be useful for someone like you who is interested in this area. So I'll make sure we have access to that too. It's just sitting on my computer right now, so I don't even have to really change it. So I'll make sure we include that. So any other questions? Okay, well, yeah, for your areas, your area, by the way, your liaison would be Holly Morganelli, who was here a minute ago, but I stepped out, so you can contact her directly. She'll be happy to help you. And your person would be either, depending on if you want to go the science route or the health science route, would be either Joanna or Patricia. So you could kind of go either way. But both of them are very knowledgeable and super helpful. So please reach out. So.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming, and if you have any questions, let us know.